Right, so today we're going to talk about AI, obviously, as this is the main topic of our lives, actually. And I'll try to pursue that HR has to move really beyond recruitment, and I'll try to tell you why. To answer the question, why are you here and what are you doing here? I have 3 kids. My journey in the field of recruiting started after finishing this place, after going to this NASA base and spending a whole summer in the heart of the Silicon Valley called the Singularity University, where we spoke about exponential technologies and how they're going to change our lives and then our society. And I came back and I started a company called Course. That's my first company. We have about 4,400 contractor trainers in 100+ countries, and we've worked with a lot of interesting organizations. We supply technology and management trainers. And then Ethermind has the goal to create the so-called knowledge agents, and I'll tell you more about the vision and hopefully give you ideas about how you can build things yourself. A secret which nobody knows about me, and please keep it in the room, is I have a double master's in HR, so I am one of you, but it's a very well-kept secret. So that said, this is the most important slide of our lives. Has anyone heard about Moore's Law? Show of hands, Moore's Law. A few people. Right, so Moore's Law was coined by a gentleman called Gordon Moore in the 1960s. He's one of the co-founders of Intel. If you have a computer, the processor is probably made by Intel. Moore's Law says we have a doubling of the price performance of anything silicon-based every 18 months. It has been working since before it was invented, before it was coined in the Second World War, in the First World War, and it has been working non-stop forever. I have been using this slide in particular on purpose for more than 10 years. And if you look on the top right corner, we have the point where surpasses the brain power of a single human in 2023. Does anyone know what happened on the last day of November of 2022? Come on, all of you are using it day in, day out. Yeah, ChatGPT was released. It is better than a single human. I'm not talking about you, but me. It definitely writes better essays, draws better pictures, writes better code, and so on. So right now, we're living in this gray area where we have exponentially rising AI and technologies, but we're not there yet with the hard science fiction, of futurism and singularity. So we're still in the gray area where we can still do actual work. Actually, silicon-based technologies are not the first exponential technology on Earth. It is us, humans. For a big chunk of time, the amount of brain matter which we have in our heads grew exponentially and even further throughout history. And so the end result is that most of us, not all, but most of us, have about 1.5 liters of brain. However, we have a hardware problem. The problem is that no child can be born with a brain bigger than 1.5 liters. It's a hardware problem. So, in reality, we have pretty much the same body. So in the fullness of history, we are a linear animal. We're not exponential. We're not growing our capacity as quick as the silicon technologies which surround us. So for many things which are happening around us, we are at the point where human performance is very close to what the machines can do, or already the machines can do better. And it's only going to get worse. Because what's happening right now is this gentleman is called Jensen Huang. He's the founder of NVIDIA, the most important company and the most valuable company in the world right now, running basically the AI revolution. He sells the shovels for the current gold rush. So he points out in this slide that we actually have 3 scaling laws which are being used by AI models right now. I won't bore you to death with the details, but just the top one, the test time scaling, the reasoning models, those are the thinking models which you're using. When you give the paid version of ChatGPT some tasks and it starts thinking, having its internal dialogue, that's what it is. So in reality, we have a doubling of the performance of the top AI models every 6 months. Now, not every 18 months, every 6 months, we have a doubling of the performance. At the same time, we have the same problem which we've always had in our companies. Knowledge is walking out of the door. The measurement for US, for mid-sized companies, is about $13 million, 13 million euros if you want to take it in Europe. And 63% of the employers cite knowledge gaps as barriers to transformation. So every single one of us has seen this. When senior employees walk out of the door, the whole company suffers. And it's very expensive to replace them. Actually, it can cost between 90 or let's say 100 to 200% of their annual salary to replace a senior employee coming out of our company. It's not me saying this is Intuit, who have the view of pretty much the whole US market. They're a monopolist in the accounting software. And then the reality is that senior employees in various positions, let's say in sales, they generate a lot more, they perform a lot better than our median employees, than let's say the bottom quartile. So if we take sales, for example, and that's a slide I took from McKinsey, the top quartile of salespeople, they perform 2.5 times better in terms of results than the bottom quartile. And this is the same in Bulgaria. If you go to let's say, a telecom or any kind of a supermarket where they're selling TVs, and ask them, hey guys, how do the top performers in Technopolis perform compared to the bottom quartile? You get something like this. You get 2.5, maybe 3 times. And it's the same for professional developers as well. So companies who have this thing called the Developer Velocity Index. So it's a cumulative index which shows how well developers work and perform and how quickly they deliver software. The companies which are in the top quartile, they perform 5 times better. They bring products to market 5 times quicker than their competitors. So we have to keep the senior employees within the company. And I know this is a common thing, this is a common topic, we don't hire juniors anymore. Yes, that's true. But the reality is we have to keep the seniors and we have to make every single person within the company as good as the most senior person in the company. So I propose to you that the role of us, let's say widely, broadly, I don't want to offend you, but HR people is to change. And we have to move from hiring to helping. We have to move from recruiting people to really helping people and implementing AI not just in recruiting, but rather in boosting retention, in employee development, in the full life cycle of an employee. And I'll show you how we're doing it, but it's just an example. And then the key thing is that retention right now is a competitive advantage. We don't waste money, we don't waste time, and our companies can outperform our competitors quicker. And the key thing right now is our ability to adapt. So here's how we do it in Ethermind. Here's our viewpoint. But in reality, you can replace Ethermind with any other company, or you can build your own tools. The AI models right now allow every single one of us to be creators. So what we do is we work throughout the employee lifecycle. We start with activation and onboarding, go through upskilling, reskilling, and offboarding, and then we have the knowledge reuse. So the goal is really to capture the expertise throughout this whole lifecycle of the top performance, and then to create the digital alumni. So create agents which can look and act like your colleagues within the flow of work, and then de-risk compliance, obviously, and then spin up digital replacements, humans and AIs. We're already cyborgs, people. If you don't believe me, leave your phone at home and try to do any kind of valuable work. It's just a matter of us accepting it. So we are already working in hybrid teams, and we'll be working in hybrid teams which have more AI agents than humans soon enough. So how do we do this? We look at knowledge in several ways. So we initially connect, and that can be done within your internal systems, with your internal homegrown products. So I'm just using Ethermind slides, but this is not an advertisement for our product. But the key thing is you have to connect to all the digital knowledge you have within the company. That's stuff you have on SharePoint, on Google Drive, in your learning management system, working procedures, emails, Slack messages. All of this has to be ingested by the AI. There is no questions about whether to do it. The only question is how to do it, how to structure the data, and how to actually make sure that you're compliant and you're not kind of moving around security levels so that somebody has access to something they don't have to. But it's not a question of do we do it? You have to do it. So this is the explicit knowledge. Out of this explicit knowledge, you extract actionable intelligence, and then you basically have to talk to people. So preserve the critical expertise. You have to talk to people and try to ingest whatever is in the heads of senior employees, the so-called tacit knowledge. That's the difference between a senior employee and a junior employee. Because when we have a junior employee, usually they have more explicit knowledge in their head than the senior employees, because they're book smart. You know, they're out of university, they know the newest stuff. But then the senior employees know how to do stuff. That's the tacit knowledge. So we interview them, series of interviews and so on. Then we validate the information and then really spin up AI agents within the flow of work. That's the key thing, within the flow of work. So don't build some other system where somebody has to log in. You have to put the knowledge and the learning and the upskilling within the flow of work, within tools which the employees are used to. So you spin up their friend or their buddy or a copy of Dimitar who's like this really senior person and they're asking all the time within WhatsApp. The vision, really, the vision is to create a copy of the human expert. So shadow human experts and then embody them. Build digital avatars who look and work and really automate tasks which human experts do. The way to do it is really you need to capture the tacit knowledge, the judgment, the style, the context, and all the explicit data and continually increase the amount of data you vacuum. So if we go to the physical world, you know, eventually in, I think, less than 10 years, we'll have about 1 billion robots, so we'll be able to even capture the physical world, movements and how things are happening within our world. And this is happening right now in this country. We have deployments in technology companies, in mining, learning organizations, not so much. We have the biggest training company in Switzerland, but in Bulgaria, just one private school. Energy, super big, you know, classified projects in energy are happening right now within this country. And then you can move on from those knowledge agents to agents who actually act. So one thing we're building for a specific customer of ours is agents who actually listen to live conversations. And while they're listening to the conversations, they use the knowledge, the knowledge we've captured from actually analyzing the behavior of the top people within the company, and then giving a live advice on the fly while the conversation is happening. You know, hey, stop talking about price, position the product and tell them about the value they'll get. And then being a coach after the conversation. So you can then have like a dial and twist it and decide how autonomous do you want the agents to be. This is really the conversation after we build the agents we need to have. And then this slide answers the question, why now? What's the right answer to this? Come on, guesses. Yes? Any guess? All right, we don't have time. So the correct answer is D. The correct answer is D. If you guessed it right, you have an IQ of about 120. That's like if you're 16 and you have nothing else to do and you've had your morning coffee or tea or whatever and like 120. The reality is most of you, dear people, are somewhere there. You need to have an IQ of about 120 at least to be a high-performing manager today because of the cognitive load. So human genius starts at about 150. And then the normal person on the street is about 100. That's the very definition of IQ. The AI models right now look like this. So this is the human, the blue thing is the human distribution of IQ points. You know, geniuses, you know, Einstein 200 and so on. GPT-5 Pro, the paid version of ChatGPT for $200 a month, 143. This is right now. So really, where do you think superintelligence goes? Any guesses? Come on. Can you say again? Above 150, correct, yes, it is above 150. The reality is we live in a world which is ever changing. So we will have a major transition in everything we're doing. The smart companies right now are looking very deeply in what they're doing, analyzing every job, every task, and looking really, really hard into what can we augment, what can we automate, what are things which are no longer necessary, which we thought are necessary, what are things we can democratize, what are things which we can, let's say, bring up in the market and personalize. Those are questions we need to answer. We are in the very first stage of the AI game. It's going to continue, and it's going to be unpredictable. The reality is, more than, let's say, 120 years ago, this gentleman, Otto Lilienthal, was flapping his wings, and we thought that in order to fly, you need your like wooden wings, and Leonardo da Vinci style. This was like before the Wright brothers. He was the best inventor. He had a few gliders. Flew from the Eiffel Tower, I think. In a few short years, what happened is we reinvented flight. So we had a phase shift in the way we're doing things, to the point that right now any plane like the Airbus A380, it can carry more stuff faster, higher, for a longer time than anything which evolution made. This is what's going to happen to every single piece of work. So we need to keep adapting. Because superintelligence looks like this. This is the Shoggoth. It's a very famous meme on the internet. The key thing is, all of us are here. It doesn't matter whether we're like a very smart gorilla or Einstein. We are here in this corner. We have this unending exponential race. We're in the age of discovery right now. We will have our alien friend intelligence, and we already have it in some places. It's just not evenly distributed among the stuff we're doing. And we don't really know how it's working, but it has the interface towards us. That's why the smiley face. It has the chat window. We can talk English to it. We can probably gesture to it. If it's a robot, it can embody. It can inhibit like 1,000 bodies at the same time. You can tell it, teach it stuff, and so on. But the reality is, it will be there. So we have to adapt for this world. And we have to use this as a leverage in order to achieve more. Because what's happened historically over the past, let's say, 30 years, is that there is this big difference between labor productivity and the median wage and the number of people who are employed into companies. It's only going to increase right now with AI because we have this huge lever which makes all of us more productive, and all of us are creators. So what we need to do is please, please, please keep the expertise within the company. And this is really the gist of it. The measure, the true measure of intelligence is our ability to change. Not how smart we are, not how quickly we solve mathematical equations. And thank you very much. Thank you.